All right, students, now it's your turn to weave. Let's get our weaving kit out of the bag and look at what we have. We have a cardboard loom, and we have a weaving needle. We have some yarn. You've watched the floor loom operate. This is really basically the same thing except with simpler tools. There's 2 popsicle sticks. They provide a little more tension on the strings. The strings should be a little bit taut. If you took this out and they were all wobbly strings, you wouldn't be able to weave on them. These sticks, I wove them in as if I was just weaving, but keep the popsicle sticks because you can put some tension on. So if we look though, we see that one of these popsicle sticks is under one color of warp, and then the other one is under the other color of warp. And so that's basically what the weaving is. It's on opposites, right? We go under one color and over the other, and then switch up on the next row. So we're going to make some rows, and we're just going to start to build up some weaving on this loom. These looms have all been warped with 2 colors of yarn, and that's to kind of help you see what row you're on. In this case, we have maybe a dark red and a natural colored wool, and you can see that the sticks are being woven either under all the white threads or under all the kind of red threads. So that's the 2 rows, and we're just going to follow that with the yarn that we have here, and we're just going to keep weaving until we can't weave anymore. I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of yarn on my weaving needle. This needle is going to serve the same function as the little shuttle with the bobbin of thread on it did at the floor loom, but this is just going to be done more simply and more manually. Getting the thread on here, the yarn, don't worry about it. Just push it through the eye of your needle. Some people like to tie a little knot, not a tight one, but just loosely. That keeps it from falling out as you're weaving. That's not a bad idea. The only thing is you'll have to untie it when you get towards the end of the yarn so that you can use all your yarn, but that's not a big deal. This is the bottom of our weaving. The bottom stick, in my case, is going under the white threads, and the second stick is going under the red. So now I'm going to start by going under the white, and that will, and I'm using my needle to pick up the yarn, but you can also, don't be afraid to get your fingers in there if you want to. Some people like to pick it up with their fingers and do it that way. Some people like to make, it's a flexible needle, some people like to make that work for them, and you might change over the course of this weaving to see what you like, the way you like to work with your materials. So I'm just putting that in there for now. I'm just going to not worry about that little tail, and then you're going to use your hand, your fingers, like the beater on the loom to push everything together. Push it all down next to that stick, and that's a good base to build your weaving on. Now you're over on this side, and you're going to come back. You're going to go around that outside warp. In my case, it's a white one. I'm going to go around it. And now I'm going to come back under the red yarn, because that's the second row, and I can see that that's what it was down here, so I'm going to do that. And whatever color you have, you'll have 2 colors, and you can just work them the same way. And then I'm going to push down with my fingers and see how that goes around the outside warp very comfortably. This is what we don't want to do. Let me just show you how to not get too tight. That's a big problem with weaving, getting your edges right. So one thing we want to make sure we don't do is strangle the warps on the edges. It's very easy to do. We want to weave tight, but if you pull too hard, then it's going to bring that in, and we don't want that, because if it does that on both sides, you're not going to be able to weave after a while. It's going to be very unsatisfying. So we have a little trick in the weaving business for that. And what it is we make a little mountain of the yarn that we're working with. And we make that little mountain because when you push down on that, it actually pushes that yarn that you're weaving with out to the sides, and then it doesn't get too tight on the edges. So let's do that one more time. I'll show you that again. And remember, you can use your fingers if you want to pick up the colors, the yarn, pick up the yarn. Okay, so there it is. If I pulled it tight, see what would happen? Don't want that. want to keep it kind of comfortable, loose and comfortable. So I'm going to put that little mountain in there. I'm going to come up next to it, next to that outside warp thread. But then I'm going to make a little mountain like that before I push things down together. And that's really all there is to it. And then you just keep going. But now let's look at how we do add a second yarn. So I'm gonna weave on here for a second and use up this piece of yarn. I am going to put a second one of that color right on top. I'm going to push it through the needle. I'm going to put a little tie on that. Now, we don't want little ends sticking out everywhere. We got this one, don't worry about that one. But we don't want little ends sticking out of our weaving everywhere. So what we're going to do, we started this row. In my case, I'm going over the red and under the white. So I have to continue that row or it won't be right. I have to finish it up over here. So I will do that by kind of following what I did with the end of that last yarn. And I'm going to lay over it. I'm going to leave this, a little bit of this behind over top of that. And I just call that overlapping. Do you see how that looks there? It looks wrong. It looks wrong, it looks too thick, it looks too bulky, things, two threads in one place. It's okay, it's going to disappear into the weaving. And this will give you a strong join, so it won't come apart when you're done. Because if you have a lot of little ends sticking out, your weaving will be, it'll be weak in those places and it can come apart if you don't have joins that are good. One more just to show you how that'll disappear. You might want to trim a little bit of that tail. Can you see it? You might want to trim a little bit of that little tail sticking up. You might want to trim this later when you're done. And just weave on. Weave on. Don't forget your little overlap when you join. And just weave as much as you want. There's a little variation that we can do that you might find interesting. If you like these colors underneath on your warp, what you can do to let them show more is not push this too tight, to leave a little gap. You can disappear those warps altogether. You can just make it nothing but what you're weaving with to show. You see how that's solid there? Or you can let some of the warp show through if you like that effect better. So there's little things you can do. Play around with it. It's supposed to be fun. You shouldn't have to worry about too many rules except to get a nice something that you're satisfied with. So you can do it like that and then just leave some of the warp colors show through. When you finish, you're going to want to take it off, and I'm going to give your teacher instructions. She'll know how to do that, and you'll take it off and you'll tie your ends and you'll have a piece that you can take and show people or give somebody or put up in your room or something, and then you'll still have the board and the sticks, and you can rewarp with something. So don't forget to come and see us in our hands-on room at the North House Museum, and we'd be glad to help you sit at the floor loom and weave on the floor loom, which is so much fun to do. And also we wouldn't be afraid to let you sit at a spinning wheel and try some spinning on a regular spinning wheel. And I hope you have fun trying out some fiber art.